All right, Jordan, heading into the next segment, I heard a rumor that there was some more rat poison, if you will, being sprinkled about the college football media, if you will, and none other than our buddy Josh Pate over there at Pate State University is I think he's laying some traps for our Clemson Tigers. So for those of you that do not know, to put this in context, Josh Pate came out with his post-spring top 25 and had none other than our Clemson Tigers atop at number one on the JP top 25 post-spring poll. And we talked about this a little bit last week, Jordan, during our show about all this preseason hype, if you will, or this praise across college football media that our Clemson Tigers are getting, and how, it's fun to hear people talk positively about your team and your program, but there's always that little whisper in the back of your head that's like, man, I really hope this team isn't paying attention to this stuff too terribly much, right? I hope they're not reading their press clippings too much and getting a little too big in the ego department when it comes to leading up to this season. I call it rat poison because if you guys know, Nick Saban in an interview, whenever it was talking to the media and kind of going off and said that they were sprinkling rat poison everywhere for his team and stuff like that. So that statement has always stuck with me. But Jordan, your thoughts on this? Obviously, we kind of addressed it a little bit last week about, we love hearing all the positive stuff about our Clemson Tigers, but there's parts of us that wish that, there was a little bit more negativity out there when it came to the 2025 Clemson Tigers. Your thoughts on our buddy Josh Pate ranking our Tigers number one in his post-spring top 25.
Yeah, I mean, Josh was kind of building up to this over the last few shows. Just listening. When the times when he would talk about Clemson, obviously the whole predicting the national champion based on a mock draft thing was was half serious, half joking type of thing.
Yeah,
but you could tell behind the the tongue in cheek aspects of it that he really did feel, high on Clemson. And I didn't expect to see them at number one. I mean, when you consider, the consensus is always like when you look at anybody else's like post-spring top 25 poll, you're more than likely going to see Texas and Ohio State at the very least, and Penn State and a lot of them as well ahead of Clemson. But to have them number one, he's putting this, he's putting all his chips in on the Clemson. Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable, but at this point, you kind of just have to embrace it because
we just got to kind of lean into it at this point.
You don't really have a choice as. It's good to have this kind of pressure. I mean, I think that's what you have to remind yourself. It's good that Clemson has this kind of pressure for the first time in a while. Because I mean, how we feel about this group coming into the season.
Right.
We think they have a team that has a legitimate shot, to be special this year. But we have never on this channel been like, okay, this is like a natty or bust, or like this team better be playing in the national championship game,
right?
Or it's a season of failure. So when the media has higher expectations than even the fan base does for the team, it can be a little strange because you're like, okay, normally, especially with the 2021 to 2023, the fan base,
the opposite,
was the opposite. They felt like Clemson was due for a bounce back season, or things were going to be better, and for one reason or another, those seasons went kind of sideways. And then last year was kind of strange because in a lot of ways you you did do a lot of things to, kind of get yourself back, trending in the right direction, but also, you had some really ugly spots there that made you cautious and hesitant, and still kind of have in the back of your mind, I don't know how I feel about this team,
Right.
heading into next year. And so that it's kind of put the fan base in an uncomfortable spot where, when you look at this team on paper, you're like, man, well, shoot, there's no reason why this team won't be one of the, top 5 or 6, at worst top 5 or 6 teams in the country. But then you're like, yeah, but we thought highly of a lot of these teams in the past, the recent past at least, that didn't even come close. In some cases, didn't even come close to meeting those expectations. And it kind of leaves you in a uncomfortable spot, because you've kind of forgotten how it feels to be confident that your team will be good, and then your team is good, like it was in during the championship years and the playoff, 6 straight playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, it was a different feeling, and you got used to it. But now, after 4 seasons of, 3 seasons of no playoff, and then and 4 seasons of multiple 3-4 losses in a season, I think the fan base has kind of reverted back to its pre-2015 kind of mindset of itself. Like, okay, I think this team is talented, but are we going to win the big games? And I think that's a fair position to have. So I think this Josh Pate poll, which is a ranking, not a power rating. So he did want to preface that this is not
right.
this is not his power ratings that he does throughout the season. This is a ranking. More like a traditional top 25 type ranking. So that, you take from that what you will, but it is an indicator of kind of the difference in what this season seems to have in terms of expectation.
Right. Like, I don't think he's predicting Clemson to legitimately go win a national title this year. Right. I think he probably thinks they're one of the teams that have a chance this year. But, kind of the tongue in cheek and the joking about, or the halfway joking about the NFL draft projections for next season and how that pertains to national championships and all that kind of stuff. And then ultimately ranking us number 1 in his post-spring top 25 ranking, not power rating. I think it's interesting. There's 2 parts of me, right? As a Clemson Tiger fan, the one part of me, it's exciting to see the college football media pretty much as a whole talk very positively about the Clemson Tigers, because it has been, a rough 3 to 4 years for the Clemson Tiger fan. The regression was not fun. It wasn't easy to go through. It wasn't easy to come on here and do some of our post-game lives that we had to do. There's a couple that just immediately pop in my mind when I say that I will not repeat. But Jordan, you know which ones I'm talking about. That were just grueling to do, right? So it is fun to have the college football media as a whole and the mainstream media to kind of be recognizing that Clemson, has kind of turned a corner. We got our wide receiver room figured out. We hired a absolute proven asset of a defensive coordinator in Tom Allen. Our offensive line is trending in the right direction, thanks to the addition of Matt Luke. Garrett Riley in year 2 kind of figured things out. Cade Klubnik has grown up as a quarterback, right? So, we have a lot of positive things trending in the right direction. But then there's that other side of me as a Clemson fan where I'm just like, can we just get a little bit, a tinge of negativity in there, a tinge of doubt, something for Dabo to grab onto and run with, which, half joking, but I don't necessarily love the amount of praise that Clemson's getting. I like that the program's being talked about very positively. I wish it wasn't so much. I hope it dies down as the summer goes, as we get towards fall camp. I hope some of the positivity from the national media kind of dies down. I do think this 2025 Clemson team could be great. They could be very special. But there's a lot of time between now and then. You never know what's going to happen with injuries. You got to get through fall camp. You got to see where you are. And at the end of the day, you got to line up and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. And then win those big games, which as of late has been a problem for the Tigers. So although I'm very optimistic for this season, there's always caution when it comes to the Clemson Tigers, because this is yet to be proven, right? You do have year one defensive coordinator. Although Tom Allen has a great track record of putting production on the field as soon as he gets somewhere, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate immediately, right? We thought that was going to happen with Garrett Riley. It didn't, right? No. So it's not that far-fetched to think that maybe it doesn't go as swimmingly as some people think it's going to go in year one with Tom Allen. Although he's got an immense amount of talent on that side of the ball, that's not always, it doesn't always work out how you think it's going to work out. So obviously still very optimistic about this season, but there's caution behind it, and hoping that we prove JP right? Yeah. Josh Pate, a closet Clemson fan, I hear, by ranking Clemson number one. So, let's just go out and prove Josh Pate's post-spring top 25 poll correct. And then his conspiracy theory about the draft projections. We'll just go ahead and prove that right as well. We'll just wrap it up. Be the 2025 national champions, and college football can move on and be happy.
Yeah, I mean. It's that simple, ain't it?
It's just that simple, right? Or, conspiracy theory of my own. Is Josh Pate trying to set us up?
Yeah.
I don't know. No. Josh Pate, are you trying to set us up? Tell us. You trying to set some traffic?
We know you've watched the show before.
So. Yeah, that's right. Let us know. Are you trying to set us up? Yeah. I just want to know. Are you participating in the setup of our Clemson Tigers?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Far be it from you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just kidding.